Spirituality can be incredibly dangerous. Okay, here's the thing. I love spirituality. I love spiritual practices, but thank God I came to spirituality after I found somatics. And I wanted to make this video because I have an understanding of the nervous system that I feel like so many spiritual teachers don't have. Now, I'm not a spiritual teacher. I don't specialize in spiritual practices. I specialize in somatics, but I have been bringing spiritual practices into my work more and more into my personal life because I'm always teaching what I first learn and embody. And I want to talk about what happens when you are a traumatized person who comes to spirituality before being embodied and grounded. So I remember taking several breathwork classes, and breathwork is amazing, by the way. I teach it myself. It's wonderful. It's super healing. I remember taking many breathwork classes where I would go into such severe shutdown and dissociation that it almost felt traumatizing or re-traumatizing. And I've even spoken to people who literally said, hey, I went into psychosis in some of these practices because I wasn't grounded enough. And that really gave me pause. And so I want to make this video for you. If you are someone who is curious about spiritual practices, if you follow a lot of spiritual teachers and gurus and you're trying these things, which is beautiful, I'm so in support of that. I want to share with you things to pay attention to. These days when I teach breathwork, and if you don't know, the breathwork that I'm really referring to is not just like, meditating and just breathing or noticing your breath. That's quite gentle. I'm talking about transformational breathwork. So there are classes out there, which I also teach, where you would be breathing for an hour, even longer, and you would be engaging in quite intense breathing. And what happens is you leave your mind and you go into the body. You go fully into your body, which is wonderful, right? Because this is where healing happens. There's so many layers we can unravel. There's just so much we can do when we go into the body. That's awesome. But if you have a lot of trauma that you haven't processed and you go into a breathwork class and you're doing this breath, which is sometimes in and out, like, so you're breathing like that for an hour or longer. Or it could also be 3. So in through the belly, in through the chest, out through the mouth, in a circular pattern for an hour. That's the style that I really like and teach. If you are doing this, you are accessing your body directly. And what happens when you access your body directly, because we store our trauma in our body, we're bypassing the protective mechanisms of the mind, which are, in the personal development or spiritual world, are really seen as a problem. Like, let's move through these, let's break through these. No, let's not. These mechanisms are there for a reason. So we really need to respect them for real. And it's not just like, let's learn some strategies to bypass them so that we can get to the emotions underneath and process that, which I agree, like that is really important. But if you are actually bypassing your protective mechanisms rather than honoring them, and I'm going to tell you what that would look like in a moment, both bypassing and honoring, you can traumatize yourself. So when trauma happens, what happens is we go too fast, too soon, too intense, right? We don't have a moment, we don't have enough support, and we don't have a moment to really integrate what happened, to be with our emotions, to really process what's going on. And if we go into a setting where all of that comes up and it's so intense, and again, we don't have a moment to process it and integrate it, that's where our body, this is again, not rational at all, but our body will have the experience of re-traumatization. So that means it will feel as if you've been traumatized. And that's actually happened to me in breathwork sessions before I learned the tools to not have that happen. So what can we do? Breathwork is freaking awesome. I don't want to discourage you from doing breathwork, but what can we do? So what happens is when you are bypassing your protections, right? The protective mechanisms that have been there with you since you were born, you are just flooding yourself with all these emotions, all these sensations all at once, rather than in small little chunks. And it's so much, it's too fast, too soon. And then you shut down, which is really smart. Again, you're like, no, I'm going to protect myself. Again, this is all subconscious and it's brilliant and we have to honor it. So the way that I work, just as a side note, I'm not going to go too far into this, but the way that I work with these protective mechanisms is I work with them as parts of my clients and myself, and I get curious about them. So if they show up, for example, in a breathwork session, if you find yourself in your head, just totally not in your body, if you find yourself thinking in loops, if you find yourself drifting off, if you find yourself almost like floating above your body, basically anything that is not allowing you to be fully in touch with your emotions and sensations, that means your body is saying this is too much too soon. So instead of pushing through it and continue to breathe, because you know what's going to happen? You're going to get dissociated. You're going to just disappear out of your body, which is, again, a protection. Dissociation and freeze. Dissociation is even further than freeze. That's the state that is preparing you for death, quite literally. That's the purpose of it. Preparation for death. You go numb, you feel nothing. So think about the level of threat that your body is going into if this happens to you. I mean, that is like a really high level of threat. So the way that I work with this with clients is if these protections show up, and they don't have to just be dissociation, they can be procrastination, they can be different addictions. In a session, it could be a panic attack, it could be severe anxiety, it could be like, this is overwhelming. Like if a client tells me, oh my God, I actually feel really overwhelmed, or I'm like, this, right? Yawning, falling asleep as we're talking about something very deep and intense, that is a signal for me from their body, I need a break. This is too much. If we push through this, again, freeze, dissociation, we're telling the body, yeah, it is dangerous. This past trauma that you have, it's actually still dangerous. So don't go there, don't process it. It's very productive to what we actually need to do. So instead of that, here is what I want you to do. Whether it's breath work or any other spiritual practice that you're going into, notice your body, slow down. Even if you have an instructor that is telling you, push through, keep going, ignore whatever, just, push through it. And these are messages that are often said, and I'm just like so horrified, like, no, don't push through. Instead, what I want you to do, at the first sign of noticing that it's becoming really hard for you to focus on your body, it's becoming really hard to stay with yourself, to stay with your body, that's a sign for you that something is too much. Something is perceived as danger. Honor that. Stop. Don't push through. Don't keep breathing. Don't keep chanting, whatever you're doing, okay? Just pause and regulate yourself. And what that could be is finding a place in your body that feels present or safe, feeling the ground beneath you, breathing just normally, maybe even holding hands with someone safe or imagining that you're doing so. There are many practices, regulation practices that I teach and will be teaching here. And then you can come back to it if it feels right. If not, you're done for the day. And that's okay, I have been doing somatic work for 5-6 years now, and I still have those moments where I'm like, okay, this is a lot. Like, this is too much. I'm not gonna process this trigger or this memory or this trauma or whatever, because my body is like in deep resistance. Every time I try, it's like, no. Like, distract or, whatever. I don't push through that. I regulate myself, and then I check, can I continue? Does this feel right? Now, one of the measurements that I have that works so brilliantly is ask yourself from 1 to 10, how safe, how regulated, how present, how, calm. It could be calm, not always, but typically like safe and not activated. Like 10, I'm really activated. 1, I'm not activated. 10 could be like, I'm really shut down also. Where are you at? Now, I always aim to be like no more than a 3. If 10 is like, to process things. So if you're in a breathwork session or any other spiritual practice and you find yourself going into above a 3, this is where I want you to stop. Don't push through it. Regulate yourself, come back to your body, and then you can ask yourself, okay, now am I a 3 again? Okay, I can come back to the practice. Am I just hanging out at like 6 or 7 or 8? It's not my day today with this, and that's okay. So take this seriously. This is really important. And if you want to hear more about also the spiritual realm and emotions and how to work with all of that, I have a beautiful podcast episode on this. I will link it, and please listen to that. And I go deeper into the importance of like not using spirituality as a form of dissociation, because a lot of people do this. A lot of us actually use spirituality to dissociate from our trauma, and that can be very, very dangerous. And spirituality, again, I have nothing against it. I think it's so beautiful and powerful, and it depends on how we do it. So if you've enjoyed this video, please take a moment to leave a comment and share your experience. I'm so curious. And to subscribe to my channel. I'm so happy to be here and make videos for you every week. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you very, very soon.